Thanks, Tank.
Well done.
Thank you. I want you to give me a fresh beer.
You serious?
Now! Now! Holy son, you son of a bitch!
Hello and welcome into the Beer 30 Dynasty Football Podcast, where we drink and we know Dynasty. If you hear that little voice, that would be my 2.5-year-old son just yelling at the dog. So we're going to have a great show today. We're going to be breaking down the AFC West. I am your host, Colten, and with me today, I got Grant Larson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to myself. I was gone last time, wasn't I? I can't. There's.
It was just Wade and I. Just him and I broke it down.
So yeah, hopefully I can live up to that dynamic duo.
I don't know, man. We sounded pretty good together. It was just flowed. Just flowed so well. I talked a whole lot, and Wade just chimed in every once in a while.
Sounds about right.
Probably the best show we've had yet, then. The minimal amount of Wade. Wade, I hope you listen to this and know what we say about you. All right, so today breaking down the AFC West. Got a little bit of news to talk about prior to getting there, so we'll just get into that real quick.
Look, I report the news. That's what I do.
I've got to say, I started watching so many Will Ferrell movies because of all of our Will Ferrell drops. I watched The Other Guys the other day. Man, it's just so good. So underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Aim for the bushes. I'm going to get that as a drop. Maybe we'll get a segment called Aim for the Bushes.
Is that for the hot takes? Really send it.
That's going to be the hot takes. Just really sending. Yeah, absolutely. All right, first bit of news here we got, though. Hollywood Brown suffered a sternoclavicular joint dislocation, had to have surgery. It sounds like he's going to miss quite a bit of time with this injury and recovery. Maybe, I think I saw like 6 to 8 weeks. So, I mean, that could be two months or so. So what does this mean for that Kansas City receiving core?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's just terrible break for him. I feel like he can never catch one injury-wise when he's finally in the perfect spot to really blow up. When I saw this news broke, I had to ask my medical worker girlfriend what that meant because it sounded bad, and she confirmed that it was not good. But Tyreek Hill did have this injury handful of years ago, and he only ended up missing about 4 weeks, which that fits in the 4 weeks of the season, I should say. So, think about we're 2 weeks away from the start, so that fits into the 6 to 8 week timeline. I mean, so it's not the end of the world, but it creates a very large opportunity for Xavier Worthy, who we're going to talk about here some more later, to really come out of the gates hot.
Does it make you more interested in trying to acquire Worthy at all, or do you think it's just kind of a hold moment?
Well, I feel like everybody that has him is really going to dig. I mean, if you have him, you're probably already high on him because you drafted him in the first round or pretty high in a startup. So nothing was going to make your opinion go down, and this is only going to make it go up. So I think everybody's dug in there.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I mean, this is his big opportunity to break in and kind of establish himself, and is there a possibility that we kind of see Worthy take it over if he does well those first few weeks? I mean, I'm not saying Hollywood Brown is irrelevant then, but maybe they're just going to be splitting once Hollywood comes back.
No, I think he could definitely run with it. They kind of have an overlapping skill set. Hollywood's main advantage is just being a vet, and being a potentially more trusted guy for Mahomes. But if Worthy can come out fast and do that, but that has not been a given for Chiefs rookie wide receivers, maybe outside of Rashee Rice last year. So, yeah, it's really week one. We'll really see how that kind of murky situation starts to shake out.
Next little bit of news is I think the saddest news we have on the board for me. And that is Jelani Woods, my boy. He suffered toe turf, and I think it was a tier 3, which means required surgery, which is a 3 to 6 month recovery. And that means he's going to be out for the season for back-to-back years. And there is rumor that there's a possibility he's not even going to be on the Colts any longer. So I've been banging the drum for him all offseason, and here we are. Good thing he was free. So it's going to feel real good when I drop him in all those leagues, and just going to be really sad about it. So just let me have my moment here.
Yeah, I mean, no comment really. It's been over for him. So yeah, it's just officially put the fork in that now.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
The faith was never there, and rightfully so, apparently. We were talking at the beginning of the show, maybe every my guy I pick, just go the opposite, because I also have Marshawn Lloyd as a my guy. Well, I guess not a my guy, but a big guy I've been beating the drum for, and he's kind of stirring up trouble there in Green Bay, and not in a good way.
I think you just need a nice safe one here at some point and just get a
Ladd
win.
McConkey, baby. Ladd McConkey.
I don't know about that.
Come on. He's my last hope. One last big bit of news, and that is J.J. McCarthy had to have his meniscus repaired and will be out for the season. Vikings fans just can't catch a break, man. He actually looked good in that preseason game, too. He threw his, that interception right off the bat. But then after that, he came back strong. He looked good. Yumi and Wade were all actually talking during it, and Wade was kind of doo-dooing on him. And then right after that, he threw 2 touchdowns. And so he looked good, and it just sucks for Vikings fans.
Yeah, I mean, there was still the possibility that Darnold was going to start the season anyway, but with how McCarthy looked, it was seeming more and more like it was going to be him pretty quick. He had kind of showed everything you wanted, and I'm sure there's going to be some pains along the way, but there's definitely an opportunity with Darnold now. I mean, I'm in that offense with Kevin O'Connell. I think for a lot of people in Superflex, he can be a very nice QB3 depth option, QB2 in a pinch. For him, most of these people got him for probably free, if not a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, J.J. McCarthy could use some time to sit, even though he did look so good. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It gives him a year to learn and learn the NFL.
He didn't get the in-game action. I believe it was and this is just the most Vikings thing ever. Once again, he's the first-round rookie quarterback to miss his entire first season because of injury since in the common draft era. Yeah,
it was like 1980 something.
It was like 1967.
It was like the 60s.
Like pretty much ever, and since the draft's been set up how it has been. Yeah.
I actually texted my dad as soon as the news broke, and he texted me back. He says, "JJ McBridgewater."
Yeah,
like,
that was a promising season that poor man almost lost his leg too. He just can't.
They just can't catch a break, man. All right, let's go ahead and get into the AFC East. We're gonna go ahead and break it down first with the town that is closest to us, Grant, and that is the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it's could be a long year there. I will say that Bo Nix has showed a little bit in these preseason games so far. I mean, we talked about how we think he's kind of a value for where he's been going. I mean, everybody's trashing him, but he was very productive in college, and albeit on a lot of manufactured type plays. But I mean, Sean Payton's going to give him that as well. I think shouldn't be any question of who's going to be the week 1 starter. There's a little bit of talk that it was going to be Jarrett Stidham, but I would say that's over now. So yeah, the real question is just what's his ceiling on this offense that's maybe lacking playmakers a little bit to some degree.
Yeah, on that roster, it's not great behind him though. So I mean, Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson. Running backs, we got Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine, Audric Estime, Blake Watson. Wide receivers, Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Josh Reynolds, Tim Patrick, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Troy Franklin, and I think that's just names. Tight end, we got Greg Dulcich, Lucas Kroll, Adam Troutman. But yeah, like you were saying, Bo Nix, he's looked good in the preseason. I know a lot of Broncos fans that I've talked to around here are actually excited about him. And I think what you've said kind of do to him, and like because he was the 12th off the board, he's an older prospect. He has the most. I think he has the record for most college games started. So I mean, he should come in here pretty much pro ready because he's played so many games, and he showed that he's got the experience. I mean, we knew what he was coming in though. He is a short target, accurate quarterback, and I think Sean Payton's kind of gonna know what to do with him. As much as I dislike Sean Payton, he knows exactly what to do with him. To just get the ball, give him quick decisions, get the ball out of his hands, and just get the ball moving. Lack of weapons. I can't agree more. I mean, our wide receiver core here is not looking great. Cortland Sutton is your wide receiver one, and it looks like Tim Patrick after the he's coming back pretty strong. Caught a touchdown pass in the preseason game. He looked pretty good. He's one of those guys I think you can go out and just, if you got a deep roster, just stash off the waiver wire typically. And I mean, he's a free play for someone that could be the wide receiver two there in Denver, which may not hold a lot of value, but it could hold at least a little something, as trade bait later on, or someone you can even plug in as your flex there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this running back room is probably the most interesting because it's kind of murky. I mean, you got 4 guys pretty much with some level of relevance there. It's possible one of that becomes -1 here after the cut down. Probably P. Ryan would be my assumption.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Although I do, it's been kind of a roller coaster for Javonte Williams, even just this offseason. There was talk that, maybe he'd be on the roster bubble or be gone. And then now it looks like he's firmly entrenched as the number 1 guy.
All the things I've heard from the beat reporters here in Denver have been that it is Javonte Williams is the number 1, and they're kind of searching just for that number 2 at this point, which I don't know if it was a bunch of clickbait in the offseason, just trying to get people like, oh, Javonte, because he did. I mean, he looked bad towards the end of the year last year, coming off the injury. It was his first year back after an ACL tear, but I mean, you expected him to get better. The season went on, and he just didn't. He just looked the exact same, if not a little bit worse towards the end. But the team didn't look great. I mean, they had benched Russ. They're going for the obvious tank and just trying to lose and everything. So I don't know if I fully trust the end of his year numbers, just because they weren't playing as their best team possible. So I don't trust the numbers, but I think it was a lot of clickbait, and he has firmly planted himself, I think, here as the 1.
But if I wanted to, who I think is going to be the 2, though, even though it may not be a true one, I think Jaleel McLaughlin's the one I want, just because of the receiving upside, the explosiveness. He could have a Darren Sproles type role in a Sean Payton offense, which is always, fed a lot of targets to running backs. And then with Estime, I mean, he's young. There's some stuff to like there, but I think you're going to see him only as the early down / goal line backup, which will not be a super valuable role this year. Next year, then I guess we'll see what happens with Javonte going forward. But yeah, I mean, I think it breaks down pretty clear like that. I mean, I know Blake Watson's got a little bit of training camp hype, but he's not much investment in him. He might not even make the team. So yeah, I think it kind of breaks down like that. And yeah, we could see a good year from Javonte. And I think with the wide receivers, it breaks down pretty clear for the most part as well. I mean, Cortland Sutton's the guy that you want if you want any real production from a wide receiver off this team. I mean, he was
a touchdown magnet last year. Just an absolute touchdown
and it
magnet.
could potentially get better. I mean, I know Russ's numbers weren't bad last year, but sometimes the eye test on the field didn't exactly meet that. So I mean, Bo Nix could easily clear that this year and give a little bit more upside to that. And then beyond that, I mean, you got the ghost of Tim Patrick hanging
I was
around.
going to say, are you not a Tim Patrick fan?
I was like 2 years ago, and then unfortunately, all these injuries and stuff, his times kind of went past.
I was going to say, he missed both 2022 and 2023 seasons.
Yeah.
So
No, I thought he was a great buy coming into maybe both of those years, and it's kind of just too late now. I mean, you got Josh Reynolds. He is who he is, never going to be super inspiring. I would say there's two guys that people still have some, well, not still, because one of them's brand new. Troy Franklin, I don't know if you're going to get much out of him this year. There's been talk that it's going to be a redshirt year for him. That's the reason he was a 4th-round pick after he had the first-round hype.
I like him coming back to his college quarterback. They have the connection, but I don't foresee him having a very big year. Maybe he turns it on towards the end, like a traditional rookie. They usually turn it up towards the end of the year, if not a second year. But yeah, there's a good possibility you get slim to no production out of him at all.
And then Marvin Mims, I think that's just over already. I mean, there's
sad.
a lot to like there, but yeah, it just never even got off the ground, really.
Yeah.
So
the problem I have with Mims is Sean Payton. Like he was Sean Payton's first draft pick. They went and traded up and got him in the 2nd last year. And then all year long, Sean Payton just kept saying, "Yep, we got to get the ball in this guy's hands more." And they just never did. They never did it. They're like, "Yeah, he did. He does an awesome job." And then we're going to get the ball into his hands more. And then they just never did. And it was just making me so frustrated as a Marvin Mims owner. I was actually lucky enough to trade him away when his hype was still massive. I think I got Keenan Allen out of that deal when Keenan Allen cooked last year. So, yeah, I have to agree. I think, it's just never took off, and I don't think it's going to here. I think he's been returning kicks again for him, which he's got juice.
if you play in kick return league,
if you're playing, dude, we should just change our name to that. If you play in kick return leagues, tight ends here though, I like Greg Dulcich a lot. He's been kind of one of my deep stashes and deep targets in leagues. Everyone kind of just forgot about him. Like my boy Jelani Woods, he missed last year. He only played in 2 games and had hamstring issues. He looks like he's healthy now. There's been nothing come out that he's retweaked it. There's been reports that he's looking good again. Everyone kind of forgot what he did his rookie year, and he only played 10 games that year too, but he just looked like an athletic tight end. He got open. He knew how to play the defense right and just got into those open spots and was a good safety blanket for the quarterback there. So I like Greg Dulcich, especially since you can get him so late.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the injuries are really the only main concern, which is a pretty large concern considering it's cost him a lot so far. But yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of Lucas Kroll hype here and there, and Troutman's been one of Sean Payton's guys before too.
Remember Troutman hype last year? Everybody was going.
Yeah, the talent gap is large between Dulcich and them, and really, I mean, he could easily be the 2nd target on this team. I mean, I would say he's easily going to be in the top 3. Just depends on if one of the running backs would end up with more than him, but especially for a rookie quarterback as a safety blanket. I think he's definitely one of the few guys you really want in this offense. And yeah, you can get him. I mean, we just did a startup. I'm not sure what
1603. Exactly. He went 16.
In tight end premium.
In tight end premium.
Yeah.
So I mean, him going in the 16th round, that is worth the shot. Just chuck it. I mean, that's nothing to just throw out there. And so to take a 16th round shot on a startup, absolutely, I'm taking that every day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you want to or need to say about the Broncos?
Oh, I think there's only so much to be said about a team that might be bottom 5 this year.
All right. Well, we'll get moving on to the good old Raiders. Let's go ahead and hit the Raiders next. All right. And for our depth chart on the Raiders, we got newly assigned as the week 1 starter, which I love too because I just love this man to pieces. Gardner Minshew. Other quarterback is Aiden O'Connell. If you really want to read the third one, it's Nathan Peterman. Running back, we got Zamir White, Alexander Madison, Dylan Lauby, Amir Abdullah. Not going to read the rest. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Christian Wilkerson, Jalen Guyton, Dax Mill. I don't even know who these people are. My goodness. I know a lot of people, and I don't even know that name. That's insane. Tight ends, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. That's all that matters. How you feel about the Raiders' offense this year?
There's a lot of guys that I am interested in or like, and I'm not sure the quarterback play or just the offense in general will be able to support them all. Minshew won the job. I can't tell if that's better for the pass catchers or not. I mean, he's going to chuck it, but so O'Connell did last year as well. But Minshew did, at least keep those Colts pass catchers afloat last year. So, I think it makes me feel good at least about Devontae Adams. The problem is, you got him, you got Bowers, you got Jacoby Myers, whatever running backs involved there. It's all those guys are being drafted at or being valued at a level where they're going to produce a decent amount, and at least one of them is not going to, at least not this year. Yeah, you got poor Michael Mayer in there as well, whose values just absolutely fell off a cliff the last year.
Oh, just gone. The problem I have with the Raiders is I'm not trying to buy into this offense at all. I remember the game against the Vikings last year. It was 0-0, and the Vikings won with 3 points for a field goal, and they didn't do a whole lot to change this. They acquired Gardner Minshew, which I like him, but he's not going to be putting up more points. They went and got Brock Bowers, which is an awesome addition, but I don't think he's going to be a difference maker enough to where this team is going to be scoring points out the wahoo. So I think betting on Vegas odds, I'm going to be taking the under pretty much every week for Vegas games. They have a really good defense, and that's what they're going to rely on. They're going to rely on this defense. They're going to try to run the ball. Maybe Zamir White I've got some interest in. Alexander Madison, after watching him last year, he's just a guy I can't trust anymore. Like at all. So Zamir White might be my only interest aside from a longer play with Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I think Zamir White, if he's healthy, is probably going to be a solid RB2 just on volume alone. My question is he actually good enough to, if we get halfway through the year and he's just plodding along at like 3.5 yards per carry, will they, try to push to get somebody else more involved, and then he kind of loses the workhorse tag that he at least had. But as of now, Antonio Pierce is definitely committed to him. Receiving wise, it just sucks for Jacoby Myers because he finally really got to a spot where he could start to put up some numbers, and then he's just going to be stuck in quarterback hell again. Devontae Adams, I think, can, like I said, Minshew got Pittman there last year. I think he can do that for Adams. But why is he on the team? Just trade him. What are you doing? This team's going nowhere, and you're just going to hold this guy in prison for the end of his prime.
The problem with Adams is he wants Aiden O'Connell as his quarterback. He's come out and blatantly said
I would too. There's at least, some kind of, upside, I guess there.
He just
not truly,
came out and was like, I want Aiden O'Connell as my quarterback. I'm like, dude, it's just getting ugly for Devontae. He wanted out so bad, and I
can't believe he's not throwing more of a fit. At this point, I would just absolutely raise hell to try to get out of there. What do you got to lose? He's 31. This is it, and you're going to rot on a. Now he did choose this life. When he got his way out of Green Bay, but. No,
he wanted to play with Jimmy G, man. That's why I went to the Raiders for Jimmy G.
But no, I think PPR-wise, he'll have a solid floor this year, and he can still always have the chance for those big weeks. He still did last year.
What is the odds he finishes as a top 15 wide receiver?
I think
pretty good?
Decent. It'll be on the back end of that 15.
Yeah. What do you think he has the potential to break as a wide receiver one?
Yeah, low end.
You think
but
it'd be like 12-10 range? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, especially they want to run the ball, but they're going to be down in a lot of games still, and they're going to have to throw it. And as long as he's healthy, he's still going to get there. I mean, he was wide receiver 10 still last year, and the situation hasn't really changed that much. I mean, he had 175 targets. There's no reason he can't be right around that again. So, yeah, I mean, so I like him as a buy in that aspect because I think some people are down on him where you can go for a late first, maybe even an early second, depending. And if somebody's really just trying to get out before it's over. Yeah. And then for Bowers, I mean, you just got to bet on the talent. And
he automatically walks into the number 2 role. Like the day he got drafted, he walked into the number 2. He won't be the number 1 because Devontae's there. But he walks into that number 2 role. So I think for a tight end, I mean, that's a perfect situation for him just to go into. He's gonna get targets, and tight ends aren't people that need 100 and some targets to do stuff with. So as long as he gets a solid range, like 80 targets, 90 targets, I think he's gonna see. I mean, his value greatly increased by next year. And I think he's just a great asset to just have and stash. I mean, I know I kind of swerved around him a lot in drafts this year because, everyone's poo-pooing that he went to the Raiders and everything. But, walking into that situation for a tight end, because next year, I mean, Adams will most likely be gone. Like, he will be done. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at Bowers possibly being your number 1 option next year. You're kind of looking at –
And with a new quarterback, most likely.
Yeah, and
could be a mystery box of – whatever.
Maybe he gets his old quarterback, Carson Beck.
Quite possible. Yeah.
A possibility. So.
And I mean, with him too, he's going to play in the slot a lot, which is good. It's going to give him more targets.
Yeah, they got him moving all over the field. Over. He was in the backfield.
And he's an absolute monster after the catch. So that's always going to give him more upside than your typical tight end. And I still, I mean, with, the other guy who's been left in the dust there, Michael Mayer, I mean.
Poor Michael Mayer.
I think he's still worth some kind of hold because, I mean, I was looking back, this time last year, people were calling him like a top 8 to 10 dynasty tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, he had been hyped up as a prospect for multiple years before he was drafted. He still went high in the second round. And yeah, I mean, he's just talented as that classic inline tight end, and him and Bowers could play a lot together.
They've been running a lot of been running a lot of 12-man sets. So they've been running a lot of 2 tight ends, and I think they're just going to adjust their offense, knowing because I don't think the Raiders planned to draft Brock Bowers. He just kind of fell to them, and they're like, well, we're just taking the best man possible here, and so they took Brock Bowers, so they have an extra basically wide receiver here. So they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end, and because Michael Mayer is still relevant. He's a good blocker. He's a good all-around, just classic tight end. He can block, but he can also catch. So I think we're still going to see some relevancy here in Michael Mayer. And there's a possibility you could get him incredibly cheap.
Well, I mean, we just watched in a startup. I think he either went in the 19th or 20th round, after which he, last year, I bet he was probably going in the 6th maybe in tight end premium.
1905.
It's one of the biggest one-year drops I've ever seen. It's insane. And not even really anything of his own fault. It just happened to be that, one of the best tight end prospects we've seen also got drafted to his team.
Right. All right, I didn't do it for Denver, so I'm going to come back to it. Over or under 5.5 games for Denver? That's a tough one. I'm going to go over. I'll take the over.
That's low. I mean, yeah. I'm going to go under, though. I'm going to go
take the under.
Like 4 wins.
Vegas is 6.5 games. I'm taking the under.
Under. Yeah.
All right.
They'll play hard under Antonio Pierce, but yeah, it's just the quarterback play is not going to do it.
I can't get out of my brain the Vikings game, man. 0-0 and 1. That was the worst game of football I've ever seen. Was that a primetime game?
I think so. I
I think
remember
it
being
was.
subject to watch it, or at least some of it.
It was so bad. Oh, man, it got ugly real fast. All right, on to let's go ahead and knock out the Chiefs next. This is going to be a tough one in the quarterback position. Oh, real quarterback controversy here. All right. So in our lovely Chiefs roster, we have quarterback Patrick Mahomes and Carson Wentz making a push for that QB1, right? And
Yeah, I mean, just a fierce training camp battle going on there.
Absolutely. Running back Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Deneric Prince, Carson Steele, Luis Reese-Zammit. That's good. Wide receivers, Rashi Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman, and I have to say all these names because they actually spread the stupid ball around. Tight ends, we got Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jared Wiley. What do you think about this Chiefs offense coming into this year? Last year, they were a little bit more disappointing. Didn't put up as many touchdowns as expected. They relied a lot on their defense. Patrick Mahomes finished as quarterback 7. So, I mean, to everyone, that's a little depressing, but I mean, that's still a great asset to have, obviously. But how are you feeling about this offense coming back?
Oh, I mean, I think it can get back to, some of the highest heights that it's been at. I mean, I think, it's crazy that even a down year for Mahomes last year is over 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, but also, 14 interceptions, the most he's ever thrown. So, I think with this receiving talent they've brought in, those turnovers go down. We hopefully see him up closer to 5,000 yards, which then opens up more another whole guy pretty much to be productive week in and week out. And yeah, I mean, instead of 27 touchdowns, closer back to 40 again. I think everything's there for them to get back to what they can usually do.
I mean, touchdowns were down for him all around too. Like he had 0 rushing touchdowns.
And that was, he had his kind of bad ankle there through a good amount of the season. So I think that was part of that. Although he did have his most rushing attempts and yards ever, so the touchdowns was just kind of fluky that he didn't get there.
Man, I was just laughing when there's a whole bunch of clickbait in the offseason. Like, is Patrick Mahomes still the top 3 quarterback for fantasy? Yes, he is.
It's funny. I feel like I've seen this year more than ever. I mean, people selling him in Superflex, for the 101 in rookie drafts.
I've seen a lot of it too. Yeah, I've seen a few where, I mean, in one of our leagues, he went for the 101 straight up, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Just you're hoping.
I think, he's been so good for so long that it's just gotten boring now. So people want to chase that new flash, especially with the down year. They want to chase the new flashy thing instead.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's guaranteed to always finish top 10, which is a given, but really guaranteed to always finish top 5 when in a normal season for him. So
crazy part is people are just hoping Caleb Williams becomes Patrick Mahomes and just throwing it away. Let's get into this running back room. I don't think the number 1 is solid locked, Isaiah Pacheco. But there's been so much talk of this ebbs and flows of, quarterback or running back 2, running back 3. Seems like CEH has the 2 kind of locked in right now, but it's a battle for running back 3 here. Deneric Prince has looked good. Carson Steele has looked good. Luis Reese-Zammit, they're going to have to find a roster spot. They've been using him to do kickoff. And it's so how do you see this backfield kind of shaken out here? And who do you find as a value to just go and pick up of waivers and stash?
I guess first of all, just to talk about the number 1 guy a little bit, I feel like people are really high on. I mean, people have always been high on him, but really putting him up there as a top 8, maybe even 6 option for this year, but even up there dynasty wise. And I like Isaiah Pacheco, and he's in a great offense, but I don't know. The receiving doesn't excite me enough there. I mean, his catches went way up from his first year to this last year, but it was for a very low yardage, so he's not really being used as a weapon there. It's still mostly about the touchdowns with him. So, I mean, I think you're going to get locked in production for him. I'm just not big on this train of him. I think we just saw him maybe going like the 4th round in a startup. I mean, that's pretty rich me.
He's coming off the board as running back 12. Names ahead of him, Kenneth Walker, Josh Jacobs. But names behind him, Rashad White, James Cook, Jonathan Brooks, Derrick Henry.
Being in that offense, I don't know if that's too bad, I guess. It's just, I don't know. I'm maybe a little bit lower. But to answer your question, I don't know. I think, everybody really sees maybe Deneric Prince or Carson Steele as the second guy. Carson Steele's been more of a fullback before, but they're kind of using him as a real tailback now. Here's the thing, though, is CEH is always going to worm his way back in there and at least make people think he's going to be relevant for a couple weeks this year.
Remember the fab dump on CEH at the end of the year last year because Pacheco was going to be potentially out and he did jack squat.
Yeah, because he is still the same guy. That's a absolutely massive bust.
He was in nursing school, man. He was applying for nursing school. He was going to be like me.
Yeah, you should maybe consider still doing that. But
maybe I should transfer to the NFL.
I bet you could absolutely dust him in a race right now. I know that for sure. But yeah, why talk about the wide receivers though? I mean, you had a bunch of names there, and because it's the Chiefs, everybody always wants to grab one of these names and hope they're relevant. But, I think we're hoping there's only going to be 4 guys that matter this year. One of them will be delayed because he's hurt, but I think there's a pretty clear top. Well, I say 4. One of them's Travis Kelce at tight end. So 3 receivers that really matter. One of Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, or Justin Ross is not going to make the team. I don't think. I'm not sure.
Kadarius Toney is as good as gone, man. He's gone.
Yeah.
There's no way they keep him.
Sky Moore's not far behind though. Every training camp video I watch is him just like getting bodied by press coverage or just
remember when everyone spent a first on him 2 years ago? Yeah, it was you. I was gonna say.
Well, it was like it was just one of the classes. It's late first in a non-super flex league. It's like play the safe option. Safe. I mean, here's the thing. Lesson learned is a guy from Western Michigan or whatever is not the safe option, even if they're on a team with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think I've learned just shoot for the moon because I could have drafted Devon Achane instead of him. And I could have drafted George Pickens, I think, instead of him. And
Achane was just too scary because of his size, man. But
yeah,
so many people took that shot on Sky Moore because everybody's looking to get Patrick Mahomes, wide receiver 1. And the problem is it's Travis Kelce as of right now. Until Travis Kelce retires, it's going to be Travis Kelce. The other problem is Patrick Mahomes isn't afraid to spread the ball around. There was one game, I think they threw it to 8 different guys. Like it was ridiculous. It was like towards the beginning of the season last year, and it was 8 different guys that touched the ball that Patrick Mahomes threw to. So it's just so hard to tell who will ever emerge as a wide receiver 1, if ever.
And we figured out that, now that he's went and done it on another team, that Tyreek wasn't just this like fast gadget guy that you could just replicate his success with Mahomes with other guys. Like, no, he's just one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
The number 1 player.
Yeah.
The number 1.
So, I mean, I think people thought that, people fell for that trap with Toney, that he could somehow replicate that. Like, no, those guys just aren't good receivers. I think, the biggest questions will be you still got Rashee Rice's possible suspension. I don't know what is going on.
They haven't had an actual trial yet, and most of the time NFL waits until the legal stuff is done to make a decision. So I don't think it'll happen this year. I think, and if it does, it'll be late season. But if anything, it'll happen next year. A suspension is coming at some point. It's a 4-game minimum because he got charged with something that was Jordan Addison. I'm sorry. Jordan Addison got charged with something specific where it's 4-game minimum. So it depends on kind of what the NFL deems necessary. the whole photographer things got dropped. So him assaulting the photographer got dropped. So it all just depends, man. It really does.
So I think, yeah, I mean, with that in mind, if he's going to, and even if he missed a little bit this year, I mean, I think out of the gates, he's going to be the safest option wide receiver wise on that team. I mean, you got Worthy, who's definitely got more upside, but, I think especially as a safe PPR option, that's going to be Rice. The question is when Hollywood comes back between him and Rice, which one, kind of becomes that middle of the field safe target for Mahomes that even allowed Juju Smith-Schuster to be fairly productive, even as someone who is completely washed now.
I forgot Juju was on that Super Bowl.
Oh, people thought he was going to be the next Cooper Kupp that year and just absolutely blow up. And he had he had like 800-900 yards, like some okay weeks, but it was, there were people out there buying him for firsts. I know that, thinking that, yeah, he was just going to become back to his top 10 option self. But
man, talk about how the mighty fall, man.
It happens fast in this game. That is for sure.
All right, Travis Kelce, let's touch on him real quick. How much would you give to have Travis Kelce on your team in Dynasty?
Speaking as someone who's paid a lot for him as recently as last year, I think I would still, because everybody's going to play this hot potato game where they don't want to be the last one standing with him. But if I'm buying him, I'm just going to keep riding it out. And everybody thought he was going to be done after last year, and he's back, ready to go this year. And I think he could easily be back next year. And
I don't think there's a way that he's not back. I mean, he can't give it up.
No, and if they keep winning and he's still, and I think people acted like, he was starting to slow down. He came out pretty hot last year, got hurt, and then just with their offense being bad, just had a lot of meh games down the stretch. I mean, just around like 15 points in tight end premium. But then in the playoffs, he heated up again, just vacuuming targets. And
we say meh, but like 15 points is still great for like a tight end.
No, but like for the amount that you've invested in the greatest tight end of all time.
Right.
But then, in the playoffs, I mean, he comes out. I mean, he drops, a 24 in there, a 29, getting pretty much 10 targets every game. And I think that's what you're going to see with him again this year. And even if the explosiveness is down a little bit, he's going to be safe. But I mean, let's not forget he had a 35-point game last year, 179 yards. He's got 2 games against the Chargers, and he's always going to absolutely torch them. So you can at least rely on those this year, if anything.
We said he had a down year and it was bad, and he still finished as the tight end 3. So.
Tight end 3, yeah. So that's why you buy.
I'll take that as my bad year. I'm still willing to give a first plus for Travis
absolutely,
Kelce. Yeah. And I think people are still like hesitant to give that because they're like, oh, it could be his last year. No one wants to get caught holding the bag. I know there's a guy in our league, in one of our leagues, that's sitting there holding him, and he tried to sell him, and someone's like, I'll give you a late second. And he almost took it. I'm like, do not. Wait until next year when someone's desperate for a tight end.
I mean, mid-season,
sell him
when everybody's on the playoff push and he's back to his classic old ways, if not even better this year, just because of the offense being, because if they're just a better offense as a whole and they're moving the ball, that's more goal line opportunities where he's going to absolutely work. I mean, they get those little inside shovel passes going to him.
The behind the back pass
in
the preseason. Just so stupid, man.
I think the one interesting other person here is Jared Wiley. I
was going to bring him up.
Now, he might just be the new Noah Gray where everybody wants him because he's the guy behind Kelce. But I think Wiley has a little bit more talent, though.
More athleticism, too.
Yeah.
He's pretty athletic.
Then I don't know. I can't remember exactly what their draft pick investment was in him, but
I think he was like a third.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little bit higher than what Noah Gray's was.
The problem, and the thing is Noah Gray is not under contract after next year. So, I mean, he could be off this team and gone. He was pick number 131. So that puts him in fourth round?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So fourth round. Day 3 capital, so not terrible, but just could potentially be a little investment. He's not being drafted, typically in rookie nor startup drafts, so he could still be just out there sitting on your waivers. So definitely worth a stash on the taxi squad with him. All right, final team. Oh wait, over under. Gotta get our over and under. So far, I'm definitely winning.
Curious on what the line is going to be set at for them.
Over or under 11.5.
Over.
I was going to take the over on that one as well. Take the over on that one. All right, final team here, and that would be the Chargers. Sad news, Justin Herbert, man. All right, starting at the top of the depth chart, we got Justin Herbert, backup Easton's hockey stick. It's my favorite thing, man. You had an Easton stick, like a baseball bat hockey stick, you know?
Yeah, I think you're the only one that calls him that. But...
I'm not the only one. Running back Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Kamani Vidal, Isaiah Spiller, Jarrett Patterson, Elijah Dotson. Somehow all the running back names are somewhat relevant. Wide receivers, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, DJ Chark, Darius Davis, Brendan Rice, Quentin Johnson. Man, Quentin Johnson's listed underneath the wide receiver 3. It's just gotten ugly. It's gotten so ugly. Tight ends, Hayden Hurst, Donald Parham, Will Disley. And that's it. Starting from the top, Justin Herbert is dealing with a foot injury. Is it foot or ankle?
I believe it's a foot.
That's what I thought. He was booted up. They said he's going to be back to practice. He'll be ready for week 1. Everyone is hitting absolute panic mode on Justin Herbert right now. Him losing all of his weapons and then this injury again. He got injured at the end of the year last year. People are so down on Justin Herbert. In a startup, in a redraft league, I do a family redraft league every year. I was able to get him in like the 12th round. Like maybe even later. It might even been later than that. I was like, what is happening? Why has Justin Herbert fallen from grace, man?
Everybody's just terrified of what a Jim Harbaugh offense is going to look like. And it's like I see both sides of it because I think, the people are saying, oh, he's, finished always this high. It's not a concern. So last year he was hurt, missed 4 games pretty much. The year before he played all the games. He had 699 passing attempts. The year before he had 672. Last year he only played 13 games. He had 456 attempts. He could play all the games and maybe only hit that this year. That's just what Harbaugh wants to play. Now, if they're able to play it, they might just be down enough where they don't have a choice, where they have to throw it. The other side is I think people are too far down, and he's still Justin Herbert, and he's still one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. He has the dual threat ability, and their defense is still really bad. That's really what got Brandon Staley fired. I think they're going to still have to throw a lot just out of necessity.
I'm glad you said Jim Harbaugh first, so I didn't have to go through my whole conundrum again. I actually had a solution for it this time. I was just going to call him Jimmy John's Harbaugh. Just cause I cover both coaches at that point, so they're just the Jimmy John's brothers. Herbert is just. I think people are way too low on him because, like you said, he is the best quarterback. He lost some weapons, but he lost an old Keenan Allen, an old Mike Williams. They're trying to rebuild this offense up a little bit here. They had lots of money problems too. My gosh, they had to just fire sell everything. They came in and I don't blame Keenan Allen nor Mike Williams to say, hey, just trade me, because they're like, hey, either take a pay cut or we're gonna have to get rid of you. So I don't blame them. I'm not taking a pay cut at the age 31 either. So. He lost some weapons, but they're going to rebuild this. And like you said, their defense, they're going to try to play this as a defense, but this isn't college football. They're going to be down and they're going to have to throw that ball. And also look at this backfield. You don't have a 100% true workhorse here is the problem. You got Gus Edwards. You have the ghost of J.K. Dobbins. He's J.K. JK one leg, because one leg only works at a time.
JK Wobblins.
Oh, wow, I like that one. Oh, Wobblins. I mean, they all in training camp. They're all like, "Oh, they all look so good." Yeah, they're not going to come out and say, "Yeah, J.K. Dobbins looks like shit." They're not going to say it. I mean, but I just don't think he can carry a workload anymore with how much he's been injured. So you're looking at, a couple of running back twos on teams trying to work out the running back one. So they're going to have to throw this ball, man.
No, and I mean the Jim Harbaugh teams of old in San Francisco had the workhorse of all workhorses, Frank Gore, there, so that was not a concern. And then you had Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith, and Colin Kaepernick, but who was a run first quarter. I mean, back when the read option was all the rage in the NFL. So yeah, they were not. They could get away with being run first, but I don't think this team has that same ability.
We might see some more rushing from Herbert, if he can get over this foot injury, which I mean, he's an athletic dude.
Oh yeah, he does not get enough credit.
Yeah, people forget that he is athletic. It's just he's been just stuck as this pocket passer because that's what they had him do. I mean, he's very good at throwing the ball. So, I mean, you could see a little uptick in his rushing, which I would like. Get some extra points on there. How do you feel about running back wide receiver core here? We don't even need to talk about tight ends, I don't think. It's
yeah, running backs. It's hard to.
Who are you taking a shot on?
I think Gus Edwards, just because.
And what are you willing to give?
I mean, a third. Every one of these guys, I would not give more than a third.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's so hard.
And I mean, maybe week one we see what they come out with, and we instantly get clarity. And one of them, it looks like the guy, and then he goes up. But until then, you can't. You're just rolling the dice if you choose one of them, because it looked like it was down to just a 2-horse race, because there were people after the first preseason game or so way out on Kamani Vidal, said maybe he wouldn't even make the roster. And then he came out last game and had some flashes. So
I still think Kamani Vidal is irrelevant.
I think where he's getting drafted for being a 6th-round pick running back is a little bit insane to me. That's one of those ones where you look back and like, what was everybody doing? But you forget what the hype was.
I've been out on Kamani Vidal because when he came out and the hype came out on him, I went back and watched tape and I'm like, this man had like holes mile wide, like for whenever he got big gains. And then like if he got touched at all near the line of scrimmage, it was just bink going down. Like he had no amount of elusiveness.
And it's just all about the situation, which could easily, even if somehow he got a decent workload this year, that could be gone immediately next year because he's a 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
And there was no other options this year.
I feel like it's also impossible to acquire J.K. Dobbins because like all the people that had J.K. Dobbins, I mean, they're holding because he had so much hope and promise, and that this then got injured, you just threw him on the IR, no big deal, and now you're just like, well, let's see if I've got anything. So they're not selling.
No, I mean, if I wanted to take the shot on like the ceiling, it's probably him, but the numbers are against him. Like Achilles tears for running backs, the best season we've seen for a guy that's had one was like Deonta Foreman 2 years ago, and that still wasn't even that good. Cam
Akers is on his 2nd Achilles tear, and he's coming back again on the Texans, man.
So yeah, I mean,
old Cam 2 tears Achilles.
So yeah, I think I think I just go with Edwards for the fact that he's the big body guy that's at least, well, he's not even healthy right now, but he at least doesn't have a history of injury, and he'll get the goal line work. And yeah, I mean, receivers kind of the same way. I'm sure we can at least agree on probably the one that we would want the most, which is the the highly invested rookie in Ladd McConkey.
I love Ladd McConkey, man. He just looks so good. I mean, everything out of camp has been good about him too. They just praise about how smart he is and how much he's learned the playbook, and like how he kills zone, which is what is really like. He just knows where the defense is going to be, and he just gets to that open spot, which is what I love. I mean, he is not Keenan Allen, but he is a Keenan Allen-like player to where he just gets open. I mean, he's not going to be the big flashy guy that gets massive gains, but he might just be a target hog that just gets you in PPR just so many targets and receptions because he just gets open.
And I wish he was able to play in the 2 years ago, almost 700 passing attempts Chargers offense to really maximize the amount of targets he could get. That's my main concern for this year. But, I think with the quarterback he's paired with, I mean, you just got to hope for the best that that's going to really come to the top. And I mean, the competition is, Josh Palmer is
he's a great wide receiver too.
Competent. Yeah.
That's all he is. He's had so many chances to be that guy, and he just never stepped up. Yeah. He's just a solid wide receiver too. That's going to get some okay numbers for fantasy. He's he's an NFL wide receiver, not a fantasy wide receiver.
Yes, and then they're chucking it offense of old. I mean, he could have some big weeks, but that ceiling's going to be reduced now, and maybe even the floor. And I mean, is there really anything to be said about Quentin Johnson? I mean, I think it's over. Beyond over.
It is.
And there's people, that are still going to hope, pray for the draft capital and the talent. But we've seen this with, Treylon Burks. I think is the perfect comparison where, similar type players that had the down first season, and then it was just immediately. And now it's a new coaching staff and front office that did not make the investment in him to begin with. So, I think he'll get a little bit of a chance this year. And if not, yeah, it's all but over.
Any interest in the tight end room here?
Who even is there? Hayden Hurst?
Hayden Hurst, Donald Parham, Will Disley. Stone Smart. His name is Stone Smart. What a cool name.
I got nothing. Donald Parham always intrigues people because he's 6'8", and every once in a while he makes a good red zone catch.
You're relying on nothing but touchdowns is the problem.
Yes. These guys are going to be the 2 catches for 10 yards and hopefully a touchdown is going to be your best weeks. Yeah, I
would roster zero of these guys.
Yeah.
Not a single one. All right.
What do we got? Win total.
You ready for the win total? Over or under 8.5?
8.5?
8.5.
Under. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but Harbaugh and Herbert. But
I'm taking the under.
Vegas is giving them too much credit. Yeah, in that division. Right? I suppose they could beat up on the other 2 teams in the division, but
I looked ahead while you were talking. I kind of gave almost a little snicker because I was like, "Oh God, I'm under all the way on this one."
8.5.
8.5. Yeah, that's a lot, especially in that division. That's a. I guess,
Vegas is Broncos, really just hoping they sweep the Raiders and the Broncos. I was
going to say. I guess that's that. You're almost halfway there with those 2 teams, but man. Ooh.
But that's more than the Raiders dropped 60 on them last year. That's not exactly a given that they're going to beat them.
It's going to get. We about to make some money.
Honestly,
go bet the under.
I feel like Chiefs over and them under. That's you can just print it there.
My gosh, who knew we were giving DFS and sports betting advice now too, Grant?
Yeah, I think we have to preface this by saying this is not gambling advice. Otherwise, there's legal ramifications there.
Not gambling advice at all. We do not condone gambling. If you have a problem, call the gambling hotline. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in for another great week. We are officially done with all of our division breakdowns. I think we've talked about pretty much every single player in the NFL except for Quentin Johnson because he doesn't need talking about. So we're going to come back next week with some awesome new stuff. Everything is new that we do, but some fun stuff we hope we enjoy and stuff that we hope you guys enjoy. But once again, Grant, are you sipping on anything good? I've missed this the last couple of weeks because we've been going an hour and 50 minutes. So.
Yeah, you've missed all the good ones. I am currently not. After my birthday weekend, I need a little detoxification. But yeah, maybe next week I'll come back with something good.
I'll bring back a good one next week too. It just was so hard with being sick so much and all that. So I'll be back. We'll be back with our beer break question of the week and our nice brews next week. But hey, I'm Colten. That's Grant.
Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one, and I'll hit Wade's good one. Take her easy. See you guys.